Ondo State Great Movement, and by that name alone, it is safe to say that it is about the development of Ondo State, and especially how governance has been run in the state. We have a variety of topics to touch on the program this morning, but first of all, I'd like us to look at the warning alert that was issued by the federal government this morning regarding flooding in Nigeria. And this has got a lot of people talking, especially in the northeastern part of the country, where we have a reoccurrence of flooding, of natural disasters. But then that is not to totally rule out the fact that other states in the south should also be proactive enough to ensure that they do not, experience such, or to mitigate the impact of flooding basically on the residents. Now, Dr. Elmaro, let's come to Ondo State, which is our immediate environment. Would you say that government is doing enough to proactively deal with the issue of flooding? We're still in the rainy season, and NIMET has continuously issued a warning on flooding, all right, which it's expected to affect some states across the country. What's your thoughts on this?
Thank you, my sister, for that question. That is actually a $1 billion question. Do I think the Ondo State government is doing enough? We have warnings about flooding for this year. Like you said, the federal government has been doing a lot, but I'm still finding it difficult to see any effort whatsoever from the Ondo State government under Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa. We know that on monthly basis, the state assesses what they call ecological fund. For this year, between January and June this year, for the first half of this year, Ondo State had assessed 611.6 billion naira. Million naira, forgive me. 611.6 million naira ecological fund. So if the federal government gives ecological fund to the state on monthly basis, that tells you that the idea is that it's not for the state to wait that till there is alert or there is imminent danger before they act. This thing takes planning. Fighting flood, fighting ecological challenges takes planning. We know the challenging areas of the state. We know the areas that are challenged in Akure. We know the areas, the Doani, Akoko areas that are challenged. We know particularly the local government of the governor. We know what the people of Ilaje, communities across Ilaje local government, we know what they are facing. So if the government assesses ecological fund on monthly basis, the intent of that fund is that the receiving state will use that fund to provide infrastructure in those areas where those challenges are present to mitigate the event of flooding and other ecological events. But the question you ask is, have we been doing enough as a state? I will call on the governor and the government he leads to give account of his activities around flood defense, around ecological planning in the state, vis-a-vis how we have been spending the ecological fund. Like I said, January to June 2024, 611.6 million naira ecological fund. Even if there were no fund for, called, it is the responsibility of the state to plan against flooding, to plan against ecological challenges, natural disasters. My sister, just last week, the federal government also announced that a sum of 3 billion naira has now been released to each state. So in addition to 611.6 million that Governor Ayedatiwa already got between January and June for ecological challenges in the state, he is now in receipt of 3 billion additional intervention from the federal government. So the federal government announced last week. So I'm now calling on the governor and our government in Ondo State. Because I understand, my sister, that there is a Bermuda Triangle between Akure and Abuja, where fund released by the federal government for intervention in Ondo State is eclipsed. So I understand there is a Bermuda Triangle. So we are calling on the government to make sure that this 3 billion naira does not disappear in that Bermuda Triangle, where our fund that is meant for the development of Ondo State has been disappearing ab initio. So the governor should now engage with critical stakeholders, and when I mean critical stakeholders, chief among them are community people, community leaders, because this era of government giving contract to their cronies, their friends, their girlfriends, and then they inflate contracts, cost of contract, and they will not do the job. That must end. The people at the grassroots, the people at the communities must be engaged with the professionals. We have Department of Earth Science in Adekunle Ajasin. We have other institutions in Ondo State that can help put in place a workable plan to mitigate ecological challenges in Ondo State. The professionals, in conjunction with community leaders, the people at the communities where the challenges exist. An area of the state has been cut off by flooding. The Doani Axis is not accessible by road again. Okay, so we should engage those community people and professionals, town planners, engineers, to plan how we will spend this 3 billion naira. It must not disappear the way 20 trucks of rice disappeared a couple of months ago. This 3 billion naira must not disappear, and it must not be converted into funding campaign for the November 2016 governorship election. The 3 billion naira is released specifically to fight ecological challenges, to fight flooding in Ondo State. It must be so spent, my sister. It must be so spent.
Okay,
thank you.
Yes, this 3 billion naira that you have talked about was not just given to Ondo State. It cuts across other states of the federation. Mm-hmm. Now we understand that in the last few days, the Ondo State government has been rolling out advisory jingles through SEMA, to educate the public on what not to do, how to prevent flooding from actually happening. Now, how would you expect, specifically speaking now, how would you expect these monies to be spent by the state government? What are the specific areas you want?
My sister, we jingles dredge waters. We jingle dredge rivers. Where we need, like the Ala River in Akure, we jingle dredge that river. We jingle create canals, channels for waters to go through easily without disrupting the people. We jingle solve the problem people of Akoko in the Doani area are facing. What we jingle do actually? Your question is, how do we spend this money? Wherever we need to do dredging, like in Ilaje local government, in rivers in Akure that I mentioned, the government must do that now. Where we need to do, create drainage, build channels to create room, because water, you can't stop water from moving. Nobody can stop water from moving. If you stay on water's way, you go with it. What we should do is to create the pathways for water, and that will include drainages, channeling the waters appropriately to designated point where the people, the residents of the people will be safe. So it's not about releasing jingles. Where if we need to do dredging of those rivers, the government should engage the right machinery and dredge those rivers so that they don't overflow their bank. Where we need to do proper channeling of flooding, the government should do it now before it begins to rain. Where we need to create drainages, the government should do it now. And I've been hearing people around the government saying that the people have a responsibility, the people should not put their waste in their gutters, in their drainages. Hey, come here. Government is about public administration, public organization and administration. The buck stops on the governor's table. So it is the government that will create regulations and enforce those regulations. If you say people should not throw their waste in gutters, in drainages, my sister, where should they put the waste? Where has the government created to put the waste? What is government doing about environmental sanitation? What is the government doing about waste management? What exactly, in which sector of the economy, in which sector of the society exactly is Governor Ayedatiwa effective in Ondo State? The flood has not come now. The rain have not, started releasing the flood now. This is the time for the governor to judiciously spend this 3 billion naira and account for the 611.6 million naira he got between January and June. Spend this 3 billion naira to dredge the water so that they don't overflow their banks. Spend this 3 billion naira to create drainages, to build drainages, to channel waters appropriately to the rivers, so that when the rain continues, we will not run into flooding problem in Ondo State. You know, we will continue, people continue to call on the federal government. The state actually has a bigger responsibility here. We have a situation where we don't have flooding yet the government, the FG already released 3 billion naira to say plan against flooding. But like I said, if we are not beginning to shout now, if we don't begin to shout now, the Bermuda Triangle between Akure and Abuja will eclipse this 3 billion naira. We will hear nothing about it.
Before that escapes my mind, we have other issues to talk about on the show, but I want you to be more specific about the bimodal triangle that you spoke about. What is that supposed to mean?
We know what Bermuda Triangle is, my sister. It's a place on the ocean where aircraft, and ship, they disappear without trace. Okay. What I'm saying, I'm using it, symbolically, because we know that. Let me not personally, but put that to you. We know, the generality of the people, we know that intervention that the federal government has been releasing since 2023 have not been getting to the people. Last week we were talking about 20 trucks of rice that the federal government announced, I think in July, that was released to each state. We did not see a grain of rice in all those states. The Bermuda Triangle between Akure and Abuja eclipsed it. Now we are talking about 3 billion naira. If Make Ondo State Great Movement is not making noise about it now, I can bet you will hear nothing about that money. It will disappear. It will disappear, because the only thing that seems to get through to this governor is how to win election in November. And when you win election, what do, my sister? It is to govern for the people. You are already on the seat of government. Govern for the people and let the people reward you with their vote. No, our governor is busy going around intimidating those who he can intimidate, preparing ringing machinery for election, appointing 344 election riggers and vote canvassers and vote buyers under the guise of senior special assistants and special assistants, all in preparation for the forthcoming election. We are calling on Mr. Ayedatiwa, govern for the people. The people are hungry. We need intervention from the government. The governor must come to the table and deliver on the responsibility of government. Thank you, my sister.
Okay, well said. But let me quickly clarify that upon the announcement of this appointment that you just alluded to, the
44, yeah.
Okay, senior special assistants and special assistants that were announced by the government. The governor was expressed about it when he said that the appointments would help to enhance the smooth running of governance. Okay, but it seems you have a different opinion. Can you help us understand what you were trying to say?
How will the appointment help? How will the appointment help smooth running of governance? How? This governor has been governing since December 2023. How has he been governing since December 2023 without these special assistants and senior special assistants? How has he been governing since 2023? How has he been governing? These people are appointed, and we will come back here, my sister. God, sparing our lives, we'll come back here post-November to ask about these 344 people. You will see that after the election, everything will be gone. After the election, the appointment will end. These are mere vote canvassers and machinery for vote buying in November. They are not. What is their job description? Has the government given them any job description? Has the government attached any portfolio to them individually? Where are their offices? Where will they be functioning from? What are the key performance indicators that will be used to measure the value from money from this appointment? Because at the end of the day, Olabisi, at the end of the day, the Ondo State resources, the taxpayers' money will be used to pay these people. So we are paying them. Ondo State is paying them to canvass vote for Mr. Ayedatiwa. That's what it is. That's what it is. If Mr. Ayedatiwa needed assistance, to govern, since he became governor in December 2023, he would have appointed them. We are now less than 2 months to election. We are now less than 2 months to election. So do we need a prophet to know why these people are appointed? Actually, do we need a prophet? They are to canvass vote for him. And not only them, the so-called transition committee he appointed in the 18 local government, and the unconstitutional, the unlawful, the illegal 33 SCDAs where he had also appointed his transition committee, they are no more than vote buyers. They are no more than vote canvassers. These are machinery he's putting in place to rig the election in his favor in November. Mr. Ayedatiwa has the right to contest as governor. He has the right to be governor of Ondo State. But what we are saying at the Make Ondo State Great movement is that all candidates must run on a level playing ground. You cannot be using government resources, government fund, government machinery to push your election, while the other candidate, that of the PDP, that of the SDP, that of the ZLP, that of the LP, that of the YPP, all of them are having to rely on their personal resources to run their campaigns. Why one of the candidates is busy using government money, government machinery, government personnel, putting government structure in place to prosecute his election, his campaign. That is unfair. That is injustice. That is a robbery. That's a political robbery. That is a rape of democracy. So Mr. Ayedatiwa should run for this election on the basis of his popularity, on his basis of his performance for the last 1 year as governor of Ondo State, and not use our money to promote his campaign.
Dr. Ilumaru, a lot of Nigerians that are listening currently I'm sure they would have an argument based on your assertion right now regarding the coming election, that a lot of these politicians, especially when they are occupying the seat of power, would always deploy resources at their disposal for the purpose of the election.
The money they are deploying at their disposal is the commonwealth of the people. That is the money that should be deployed into education. That is the money that should be deployed into healthcare. That is the money that should be deployed into security. That is the money they have diverted. They are diverting to buy vote. And that is why, my sister, our children are resuming in school now. This state government has not bought a single notebook for a student, for any child in Ondo State. Not a single notebook for any child. Not a single reading, writing materials. People are complaining that principals of secondary schools are extorting and exploiting parents. And I ask myself, where do you want these principals to even get money to run their schools? The government is not giving them funds to run the schools. They are looking inward, looking for how to raise money, because the government has abandoned them. And yet the school has to open, the school has to run. That is why they are being creative, looking for one opportunity here and there to raise some money, at least to make sure that the school is running and the children have a place to go in the name of schooling. So the money that should be invested into education, that should be invested into healthcare, that should be invested into serving the people, is the money they are deploying. That money do not belong to them, my sister. That is the fraud that we must all fight. If they want to buy vote, they must buy vote with their money, not with the commonwealth of the people. That is sacrilege.
Should we even encourage the culture of vote buying?
We are not encouraging vote buying. That is not my point. But I am saying, if they decide to vote by it, because we know that is what they do, they should go and do it with their money, not our money. That is blood money. That is the reason people are dying on our roads. That is the reason people are dying in our hospitals. That is the reason destinies are being wasted in our schools. Because the money that should fund social services have been kept for election every 4 years.
How sad.
That's an evil.
Let's talk about the recent program that was launched by the Ayedatiwa-led administration. That's the mass metering program across the 18 local government areas of Ondo State. They call it the Odatiwa meter. Now, this, they said, would be part of the efforts to reform the power sector and ease the burden of, inflated electricity bill. Basically, to just remove the discrepancies in the billing process. How would you react to this? Do you think this is a laudable project?
My sister, I actually reacted. I had a sit-down interview with our media crew in the MOSG where I reacted to this issue you just raised. And my reaction was that it is wasteful, it is a prodigal expenditure, it is misplaced priority, and it is abuse of privileges. What do I mean by it is wasteful? The reason why Mr. Ayedatiwa embarked on this project is because he said he wants to fight estimated billing. Estimated billing in itself is a fraud. It's a fraud perpetrated by the discos. Why the government that is supposed to protect the people watch the discos, robbing the people in the daylight. My sister, let me ask you, when you drive your car to petrol station to buy petrol, do the owner of the petrol station, does he wait for you to buy pump for him before he sell petrol to you? Is it not the owner of the station that will buy and install pump to sell his petrol and meter his petrol? When you go to the market to buy garri, to buy rice, the woman that sell garri in the market, does he wait for you to bring Congo, to bring the rubber we use to measure garri that we call Congo? Does the woman in the market wait for you to bring Congo for her to measure her garri for you? Is it not the woman who is selling garri that will bring the measurement tool for it? Metering is the responsibility of the discos. They are the one distributing and selling power. They are the one who should equip themselves to meter their power. It is not the responsibility, it is not done anywhere in the world that people will buy meters. So it is the disco that should provide meters. The money,
according to the government, subsidized. That's why it's called a government program.
The government should not subsidize. That's what I'm saying. The government should not subsidize. What the government should have done, a responsible, a reasonable, a thinking government, what they should have done, my sister, we know by the Electricity Act of 2023, power control of regulation of electricity has now been devolved to the state. So Ondo State now has the power regulatory power to decide how electricity is provided in Ondo State. As a governor, what Mr. Ayedatiwa should have done is to release a policy that in Ondo State there will be no estimated billing, period. If we need a law, we go to the House of Assembly and outlaw estimated billing in Ondo State. When we do that, it becomes the responsibility of the disco to meter the people. Not that you will be using our money, you collude with the disco, you will be using our money to, that is a fraud. It is Odatiwa fraud, not Odatiwa meter. Use our money to collude with the disco to defraud the people. I have given you typical examples. When you go to the market to buy garri, you don't buy Congo for the woman that is selling garri. When you go to the petrol station to buy petrol, you don't buy the pump for the owner of the petrol station. It is the person who is dispensing the product that will provide the metering mechanism, the metering tool for the product. It is the discos that should provide meters for their customers. What will government do for people in Nigeria? What will government do for people in Ondo State? We are the one who provide our water. We are the one who provide drainage in front of our houses. Even this electricity we are talking about, we are the one who contribute to buy electric pole, to buy electric cables, to electrify our communities. And the disco will come and start to charge us. These are their primary responsibility. It is their business investment that they should make before they have return on investment. Ondo State should not waste our resources to go and subsidize meters. This money should go into, I have said earlier in this program, my sister, I said earlier that this state government has not purchased a single notebook for any child in Ondo State as our children resume school this month. Not a single textbook. This government has abandoned education. Principals are now having to go and be raising money from parents, and people are now crying that they are extorting parents because the government is not funding the schools. Our hospitals are glorifying mortuaries. Meanwhile, this was the same state a governor ran. He built mega schools across the state. He built healthcare infrastructure, the mother and child, across the state. He built market and removed our women, our mothers, our sisters, and our wives from the mud where they call market. He placed them on a decent place to do their businesses. He built market across the state. He built the International Conference Center in Accra, the Dome. That governor left and development left Ondo State. You can imagine that for the past 8 years, we have maintained the tempo that Ondo State got in terms of development between 2009 and 2015. If we have maintained that tempo since 2016, would we be where we are today? But development stopped, everything ended. And we have been animal. What has this APC government now presided over by Governor Ayedatiwa? What exactly have they been doing with our fund in Ondo State?
Okay, that's a question, and it's a running conversation. But I'm sure if we continue this now, Dr. Elumare is ready to speak for the next 2 hours. But we're out of time, and we really have to run now. Thank you so much, Dr. Adeboye Elumare, for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you, my sister. That was quite very quick. Thank you.
He is the Director General of Make Ondo State Great Movement, and he's been